So it is. Hi, Earl. It is the first video of the new year. No, I am not going into Eve's Pond. It's midnight on New Year's Eve. There's enough going on in that park to begin with. So, I don't know. What do I want to say? Well, I do want to read more. I will say, I've been wanting to read more. I've been wanting to get back into reading. Oh my god, that is a video and a half. Alright, here's some tea on my life. Okay, so that was, right, it was 2010. I had just started college, and I became fascinated with my college library. I kept going in there and looking at all these books because it was one of the few times I actually just had permission to be in the library. And, that's the weird thing. It's like, my high school library, I only went in it at most, if I could say over 10 times, that's a lot. Because before the building was changed... Oh, hold on. Alright. So where was it? Alright. High school, Art of Design. I was there from 2006 to 2010. And at the time, it was located on 2nd, in between it was on 2nd Avenue, in between 57th Street and 56th Street. And it was right on the front of 2nd Avenue. And that's the old building, because it has a new building now. I've only been in the new building once or twice. And, there was a high school library. I was in it maybe, when it, where it originally was on the 2nd floor. And the only problem was that half of the 2nd floor of the building was used by the elementary school for a kindergarten class. So, I would say about first 2 years of me being in the school, we couldn't use the 2nd floor. We couldn't use the whole 2nd floor. And if you got caught on the wrong side of the building, you would get immediately in trouble. So that was a big no-no. And then, the main reason why I wanted to go to the High School of Art and Design is because it had escalators, but as soon as I got there, only one of them worked. It was in between the 2nd and 3rd floor. Only one of them worked, and it was only on at most 5 times. And by the end of that school year, they ripped them all out of the building, and I never got to ride them again. One of the things that my mom talked about when she went to that high school was that when you would go up the escalators, there was a gap in the wall. And she said that when she was going to school, if you wanted to get away from a dean or somebody who was following you, you'd ride the escalator halfway, or you'd go up the escalator halfway, hop through the gap in the wall, and go down the escalator on the opposing side, which would leave you on the opposite side of the building, because that's how those escalators worked. So basically, you could pull a James Bond, Bourne Identity type of, magician trick on any of them. Well, when I was going there, those gaps in the building had been barred. Oh well. However, there was one thing I did get to do with the escalators, and that was ride down the railing. And I was actually one of the only kids that, like, figured out how to do it. Like, basically at the end of the day, or if I could go up and down the escalators and there wasn't anyone around me, I'd get on the railing. Now, mind you, I have backpack full of school supplies and maybe an additional bag full of art supplies, and I'm hopping on to very slick, hard rubber escalator railing, and I'm just hurtling toward the ground. And I'm just like, once you got going, you really got going. Like, surprisingly, jeans worked really well on them. So, jeans worked really well on it, I guess because the jeans were so... I don't know why, actually. Because, like, you would think, like, parachute pants. Because, like, when I was a kid in the 90s, you wanted to wear parachute pants on those metal slides. Yeah, I'm old enough to remember when New York City parks had metal slides. And if you wanted to go really fast down a New York City metal slide, you put on parachute pants, and then you gave yourself a push at the top, and boy, you went down like grease lightning. So, if I remember right, like, some of the, like, what you would think would be slick on the railing was actually sticky. So, like, you had to, like, rethink how you were going to go down it. But I had a lot of fun. Now, going back to the library thing and reading, when I got to college at the New York Institute of Technology, Old Westbury campus, the library was just full of books that I could just look at and read without having to ask permission to be in the library. I mean, the last time this happened was, like, even elementary school. Like, we would have library time at PS48, and I was allowed to explore the library and pick out a book. But once I got into junior high, we rarely ever went into that library. We weren't even allowed to go into it, because why were we supposed to be able to go into the library when we weren't allowed to leave our classrooms for anything? We had to stay in the classrooms at all times. I mean, like, you couldn't even go there during lunch. It was a library that was never used, because it was like, the only time they ever used the library was when, like, on the occasional time we'd go into the library to have, you know, the library class to teach you heathens how to actually use the library, so you know how to find the book you're looking for so you can pass that fucking exam, so your parents don't take your Sega Genesis and your Sega Dreamcast and your PS1 and your PS2 and don't light them on fire. Well, that's what the class was about. Was like, hey, go to a library. But were we allowed to use the library in I-61? I don't really know. I never was allowed in the room. Like, we couldn't just go to the library. There wasn't any, like, time that we were told that we could just go to the library and hang out. So, like, the librarian at that school must have been incredibly bored. So back to NYIT. There's a bunch of books. I'm looking at them. I'm looking at, like, books on Bauhaus and stuff like that, and books on Frank Lloyd Wright. And then, great. As soon as I look over, they stop. So, what happens is that I come back from my first semester of college, and I'm spending some time at my Grandma Fink's house. That's my mom's mom. And she has a copy of War and Peace. And I know War and Peace is this epically long book. So I start reading it. And then I started to challenge myself to read the longest novels ever written. basically, if it's a novel and it's over 1,000 pages, I'm going to try to read it. And I have succeeded in several, but there's some that I haven't finished. The one that I did finish is Marcel Proust's In Search of Lost Time, or A Recherche du Temps Perdu, or Remembrance of Things Past. I forget how people want to break down the title of the book, but it's the longest novel ever written that's still recognized by the Guinness Book of World Records. It's a semi-autobiographical book of Marcel Proust's life. It's 7 volumes. Swan's Way. Within a Budding Grove. The Guermantes Way. It's sometimes getting the name of the 7 volumes is hard because depending on whose translation you have, it's either some of the books will have different styled names, so it's kind of hard to remember it at times. So the first one is Swan's Way, and I believe it's Within a Budding Grove. The Guermantes Way. Alright, so that's 3. The Fugitive. No, it's The Captive. Version that I got that was seen as a more definitive English translation of the French text was 6 books, but it was still 7 volumes. They condensed Fugitive and The Captive into one book, but it was still 2 volumes. I mean, the one thing that's interesting about the first volume is that the first chapter, and also, like, the thing about this book is, like, the chapters are fucking huge. Because it's, like, one whole continuous book, just imagine the chapters on, it's like 4,000 pages if you count all the pages together. It's over 1 million words. So if you imagine a novel that was a book that was like almost 2 feet thick, that would be the book. So imagine the chapters are scaled up accordingly for size. Because the first chapter, it might be called Overture, I'm not sure. It may have it has, like I said, sometimes it has a different name depending on the translation. But the first chapter is like 200 plus pages. And it's like starts off with the young boy who is going to be our narrator talking about how he goes to sleep at night and how, like, it's all like this continuous stream of consciousness too. So that's the other thing, which I'm doing right now. Yeah. So it's a lot of like long flowing concepts And if you really stick with it, you'll get something. And like, there's this one sequence where he goes to like have his mother kiss him goodnight, and his dad says, "Nah, you're good, go to bed." And like, it's this young boy's like earth-shattering moment, and it's so earth-shattering. So right now, what I'm trying to read for 2025, I want to try to finish several of the books that I've been putting off for way too long. I want to finish Fear and Trembling by Soren Kierkegaard, and the other book of Soren Kierkegaard I have. I want to finish up the other philosophy books. And, oh yeah, so like the good news is I finally have a job. My first day of like official in-person training is the 14th. So have that going for me. Talk to you guys soon.